Hello and welcome to today's Facebook Live business series. I'm Jessica Pantermuehl, and I'm the lead instructor for the career development course here at the Nutritional Therapy Association. And today I am so excited to be joined by Sally Crewe. Sally Crewe began her first full-time business at age 17. And by 24, she was running her own web design and hosting company. After years of depression from undiagnosed celiac disease, she finally made the connection between food and health. And like so many of us, it was a life-changing experience that lit a fire in her to help others. In 2010, she became a nutritional therapy practitioner. And in 2012, she focused in on the gut-brain link and became one of the first waves of certified GAPS practitioners. And as someone who is very energetically sensitive, she found that a schedule that was really packed with one-on-one clients to be quite draining. So she put her knowledge and experience into creating an online course. And very soon, she was helping GAPS clients from all over the world via pre-recorded video lessons. In 2016, she set out to empower her fellow NTPs and NTCs with tools to create and sell their own online courses and programs. And out of this need, she created the Practitioner Platform, the all-in-one website and course creation platform that handles all of the tech and design stuff so that you can just focus in on being a practitioner and not a web developer. So Sally, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much. I was so excited to be invited to do this. And as I was just explaining to you before we went live, my neighbor was so excited that they decided to start mowing the lawn. So that's why I have these studio level headphones on. So hopefully the audio is okay.
No problem. We're hearing you just fine.
Great, great.
So my first question for you is, you went through the NTA's Nutritional Therapy Practitioner Program, and as I mentioned in your intro, you saw clients one-on-one for a while until you turned your focus to helping others to create a successful online business. So I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about that journey. What led you to make that change and sort of that process and sequence of going through that?
Yeah, so it was sort of a two-phase journey, really. The first phase was me going from being a one-on-one practitioner, and my focus was GAPS, which I love. I really believe in it. It helped me so much. Won't even get started on that. But I'm a full sort of evangelical GAPS practitioner. But those types of clients are usually some of the toughest cases. And I was actually, because I'm an early adopter, I actually was in the first wave of GAPS practitioners. And I was the first GAPS practitioner in not only in Austin, but in the Central Texas area, which is a pretty big area. So as soon as I got listed on the GAPS practitioner website, my phone was ringing and my email box was going crazy, which was great, except I was also working a full-time job at a tech startup, managing the customer support team. So it was a little bit draining, but I soldiered on, and I decided at some point, I think I'd sort of seen the idea of online courses being floated about, and this was probably back in 2013, 2014. And, you know, the tech side of me and the designer side of me just was really excited by the idea of like helping, being able to still help people, but sort of from within my own comfort zone and on my own schedule. So that was phase one, was from me going from a practitioner to having an online course of my own. The big leap for me, where I really feel like I came into like what I'm supposed to be doing, was there was, and I'm trying not to make this too long, but there was a post on one of the NTP Facebook groups. It was sometime in December 2016. And somebody was just basically saying that you know, they're trained as an NTP, and they were finding that they really weren't particularly enjoying having a lot of one-on-one client work. It just didn't really suit their personality, or they found it a little bit draining, or maybe they found that I know like imposter syndrome is a big thing for a lot of people, and just the idea that someone can come in off the street and ask you any question about any health topic at all, and you feel like you need to know exactly what to say like instantly. It's kind of a terrifying prospect. So this thread that this lady started, it got really, really big, and I stumbled on it a couple of days later, and I thought, well, everyone was throwing in, well, I do this, I use my NTP credentials in this other way by, I'm a researcher, or I do blogging or XYZ. And I just thought I'd throw in, I actually created an online course, and I just automated it. And of course, everybody's ears stuck up, or eyes came out on stalks, and my little subsection of the thread got really, really busy, and I got tagged, and it just ended up being a case of people wanting to know, how on earth did you create a course and then actually automate it? So you're actually waking up and looking at your phone, and you've made sales, which is like the holy grail of the internet.
Right.
So it was completely organic. I actually this thread exploded, and I just said, well, to me, this wasn't anywhere near me thinking of, I'm going to eventually turn this into a niche for a business. It was just like, oh yeah, I'll show you guys, like my colleagues, my friends, how I did it. I'll happily. And it ended up being, I did a little group call with them, very casual. And I think I got about 150 people on that, just from this one thread. And anyway, long story not so short.
Yeah. No.
That became like, please, well, can you please show us, okay, you've shown us like what you did, can you now show us how you did it? And of course it was suddenly like, oh, well, this is, I should probably do a course on this. So I did a live run of this course the following January, and it all came together from that first Facebook thread, the first spark of the idea. I think I had the whole thing sort of ready to be sold in about 2.5 weeks. It was just, that's the thing. If you don't plan it, and you're just doing it because it's fun, and you're not trying to make sure it all works and getting all uptight about it, then that's when things just flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to go back to that point where, for you as a practitioner, and before you started offering this service to other practitioners, for you as a practitioner doing that online course, can you walk us through how you built that out? And I'd love to hear some of your learnings from that. So, for example, when you started getting into that and started moving into developing your online course, what tools were you using? What lessons did you learn? I'd love to dig into that area for you as a practitioner, building out your own online course in the beginning there.
So the first course I did which was my GAPS, for my GAPS clients, was basically a one-on-one in how not to do it. I built it sort of the way that you might sit down and write a book. I got everything out of my head, and it was a long and difficult birth. And then I just somehow figured out how to make it into the stages. It lined up with the stages of the GAPS protocol. I learned a lot from that about how not to do it. I tried to make it perfect, and yet I hadn't shown it to any of my clients. So I don't know how I thought I would know what was perfect for them.
Such a good tip, just to pause you right there. I think there's so much wisdom. And such a valuable lesson just with that one thing that you just said.
I think what people tend to do is hold themselves away in their office or wherever they work, and get the course out and then get it perfect and get the logo and get the name, and then they're backwards and forwards for months on what should I call it. And that's fun. It's nice to do that, but it really doesn't matter. And so what I learned from that, I put into how I did my next course, which was the business one, which was, I just said, oh yeah, I can show you how to do that. Come along and we'll build it as we go. Which is now something that's known in the industry as a beta experience, like a sort of live program. And that's actually what I always now encourage people to do. And that's how I built out my software platform as well, was the same thing. It was like iteration, basically, which comes from the software world of, you can't ever, things like this, courses that they're creative, you're never finished. If we all stopped letting anybody see what we're doing until it was perfect, nothing creative would ever get done. Because when is it done? Nobody knows when it's done. And especially online, we've got the opportunity to tweak. My sales pages are never finished.
Right.
I'll confess to that. Like, I'll just check it. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slightly different shade of blue is required. Emergency, it's like, it's kind of a sickness, but it just, in my case, it speaks to, because that's kind of a passion coming from a design background. So as I always say to my students, do as I say, not as I do on a lot of this stuff.
But having that lesson of, it doesn't have to be perfect in order for you to launch it. It does not, out in the audience, if you're looking at building an online course, that's one of the biggest things that I see. I'm sure, Sally, that's one of the biggest things that you see, like you're speaking to, holding yourself up, working on it without showing anybody, spending so much time on it without getting that feedback first. Right?
And you get invested in it. We have this thing, I'm a musician in my other secret life, and we have this thing that we call demo love, which is when you get so used to the demo, the rough version of something, the first take, the first draft. It's probably the same for people who are, professional authors and people like that. Anything creative, you get, if you focus too much on that first and get too precious about it, then any change, even a massive improvement to you, feels, it's not like it used to be. So
absolutely.
You can, and the thing is that it's not just about don't chase perfection, because it's kind of a waste of time. It's like, you literally cannot know what they want to know until you've taken them through it. Like you can't, it's not just a case of, not having the time, trying to fast track it or trying to get some feedback, which are all benefits. It really comes down to, it's just the wrong way to do it. You're going to have to back and rebuild, move whole sections around. You'll focus on something that you thought that they wanted to know, and they'll be like, why are you telling us this? Can you tell us more about this over here?
And
So,
how would you, I'd be curious from your perspective, how would you suggest practitioners navigate that? Would you suggest that they do a rough version, have people come in, go through it, get that feedback, and then do another version? I would love to hear your suggestion for that process.
Absolutely. And I've actually even moved on a little bit more since the last time I've ever talked about this. Was, I'm all about having this so-called beta experience where you just have an idea, and it goes all the way back to when you even just have the conversation with people. Hey, what do you need help with? Do you need help with this? They might say no, or they don't physically say no, but nobody signs up, which is a big fat no, basically.
Exactly.
I can read the signs. But then you don't say, oh, well, I was wrong. This means it's not for me. All it means is, okay, it's science. It's a science experiment. If you do a science experiment and it goes this way rather than that way, you don't say, well, I thought it would go that way, so that means I'm a terrible scientist. Like, no. But we apply that, and that sounds insane, but we apply that to when we're doing courses. So ask people what they want, and if they don't tell you, sometimes they don't know what they want. Listen to them, sort of repeat back to them, and it's sort of like a lump of clay. You just mold it over time. And go through a live version of it. Be open. I tell my students to, plan roughly what you're going to talk about each week for sort of the 4 to 6 weeks or however long the program is. But don't get locked into it, because you might find on week 2 that people take one little morsel of what you said and latch onto it and want to go really deep on it. And that's great. That's fantastic. Just go with where they take you.
Yeah. Wow. So do you recommend then doing sort of a almost a live version, like creating it actually as you're taking people through it?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's, as much as I know everybody's different. I'm a little bit the sort of the kid who did her homework on the back of the bus on the way to school. I've always been sort of fueled by last minute panic syndrome. If that's not your thing, good for you. Don't change. But try and leave yourself some flexibility. So I mean, I'm better at it now, but I have talking points, but I leave a little bit of breathing room, because otherwise you have to make these things more like a conversation and less like a monologue. If it's a live program and you're just reading from your script and you're just like a teacher just pointing at a board, why is it live?
Yeah.
Why don't you just record it or do an animation or something?
Such a good point. Yeah.
So, and don't be scared. These people, even if you only charge $10 for people to come to your first version of your program, they pay, even if they pay you $1, it's an energetic exchange that they trust that you can help them to some degree. And I think the confidence is a big part of it. So I think doing the live version, there's a lot of resistance from people around it, because it's like, they act like you're pushing them in the deep end of the swimming pool, kind of, which you kind of are. But, no one's going to show up for your live calls everyone's busy. We've got more information at our fingertips than ever before in the history of history. And yet they are taking time out of their precious day to come listen to you. So they're not idiots. Just don't sort of basically get out of your own way and just trust that they're there because they want you to do well. They're not showing up to be like, okay, let's see, I can't wait for this person to mess up.
Totally.
And I think that's what we think,
So it can be easy to get in our own way, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to know, for the practitioners who are thinking about creating an online course for themselves. So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like there are kind of two ways to go. You can do it as you go. So deliver that live program as you go, and I'd love to know if you would ever suggest this, if they do just a fully pre-recorded and then as the beta version and then tweak that. And if so, how would you suggest practitioners decide which of those ways? Would you really strongly encourage that live? Or I'd love to hear.
So I do have an answer for that. So there are some people who already have a program, or not even, they don't consider it a program, but it's a series of steps that they take actual clients through, that they've taken them through in person or via email or over the phone. And I think that's sort of the category that I fell into with my GAPS course. It was kind of, I found myself having the same conversation with all the different clients,
right? And
kind of foreseeing, okay, week 3, I know I'm going to get a text about die off. I just knew. And don't let people text you, folks. Boundaries. Bad boundaries over here.
I understand.
But I think if you do have a program that if you're sort of an established offline practitioner and you have your systems and you're literally wanting to bring them online, then don't, as my mom said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just try and make it as close to that experience. But a lot of people I'm working with are people who are just starting out and they're still not quite sure of which, who they want to help or how they want to help them. And that's where I say just stay as open and flexible as possible.
Okay, awesome. I love that distinction. So that would really be where you would strongly encourage that live avenue.
If you have a system that works, then, and in that case, I would still say you could definitely benefit from delivering it live.
Sure.
As well.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for clarifying. That's awesome.
No problem.
And do you have tips on length of time for the course? Do you like recommending 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? I'd like to hear your recommendations around that.
It's all of this is taken with a pinch of Himalayan sea salt, of course, but do try and keep it as concise as possible. Like my online practitioner business course, I told people it was going to be 8 weeks, and then when I came down to everything I'd sort of promised I was going to show them, I was like, there's no way. So I said, okay, guys, it's going to be 12 weeks, and it actually took more like 16.
Okay,
which was great value for them, but
definitely
you start to see, as good as your content might be, when can you honestly say was the last time in your life, except when you were maybe like 6 years old, that you could commit to every Tuesday night at 7? Like life gets in the way. So I think if you keep it between 4 and 6 weeks is ideal. Even 4 weeks, sometimes and I've had people say, well, it takes 8 weeks. I'm like, well, maybe make it into two parts,
Oh yeah, that's smart.
And hot tip, always try and give people a break week to catch up, because people have an issue where if they miss a call or they sort of fall out of your orbit for a little bit, it's like falling off the wagon on a diet. People are like, oh, I'll never catch up. Forget about it. So give people the catch-up week.
So smart. And we have some comments coming in that I want to make sure we address too.
Cool.
And so Caroline had asked a couple questions. Thanks so much, Caroline. Yeah, she mentioned that she loves your music, Sally, when you were talking about your music earlier. And also she was saying, she made a good point that you and I are referring to the word practitioners here as we're talking. And she just wanted to make the distinction that NTCs, nutritional therapy consultants, are also obviously able to both take your course and build their own online courses. Yeah. And
absolutely.
So I think for me, when we're saying practitioners, we're just kind of globally saying people who practice anything. So
yeah, I mean, if
like health practitioners.
That's a good distinction to make. Yeah, I tend to say when I'm not in the NTP world, where I tend to say, healers, coaches, just anybody who is, and if you look at practitioner, I mean, my husband's a drummer, so he's a practitioner of drums.
Yes, absolutely. But yes, we were certainly not leaving out. We were certainly not leaving out our NPC family here either. All in the same, definitely. And Caroline had also asked, which learning management systems do you recommend for online courses?
So I have my own, the practitioner platform.
Right.
I got this great free hoodie from my boss, aka
Oh,
me.
nice.
But we're actually built on LearnDash, which is.
Okay.
I'm a research queen, and I researched the heck out of every single thing I ever use. And I've tried them all. Believe me, I literally mean that. And LearnDash was the one that I feel is the best, most powerful and most flexible. So if you have a WordPress site and you want to stick everything together yourself, then I would really recommend it. That's a good one to go with.
Cool. And for people who might be very new with this realm of online courses, can you explain people like what a learning management system does and what that even is? Kind of an introduction to what that can look like?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because it's confusing, because there's membership software and then there's learning management software, and as with all tech, there's often an overlap in functionality, because a lot of these tools, they do one thing and then they say, oh, okay, we'll do that, and we'll do this, and we'll do this, and they end up having 12 features, and then you've got another tool over here that has 6 of those features and 6 other ones. That's where even I get in a pickle with tech, because it's like whose jurisdiction is this? It's like I feel like I'm showing up to a crime scene. I'm like, who's in charge here?
Totally.
So basically, a learning management system, think of it as that it's what controls what your learners go through in terms of their experience of the course. So it's responsible for how the layout of the videos, the progression, whether you have modules, lessons, topics, quizzes, that's all under the jurisdiction of the learning management system. And sometimes they also have the ability to take payments. But specifically speaking, it's all about they're managing the learning.
Awesome.
So
yeah. So the way that those students are interfacing with that course content that you've created and put out there.
Yeah, I think of it as the virtual classroom.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
That's probably the best way to put it. Wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah, that's great. And so when would you say, so let's say there's, a practitioner, an NTP or an NTC, and they've been seeing clients one-on-one, or maybe they've just, at what point would you suggest these practitioners making a transition into the world of online courses?
I would say whenever it feels exciting to them. Mm-hmm. And my answer a couple of years ago may not have been the same, but tech has moved on so much recently, and it's caught up with the way humans, it's not quite, but it's almost caught up with the way that we naturally interact. And even if you know for sure that you want to solidly stay as like an in-person practitioner and have an office in your hometown, it's 2019. People still expect you to have a website where they can go book appointments and check things out. So I think everybody needs to have an online presence, period. But if you're interested at all in the idea of taking some of your actual work online, whether it be an online course or just having Zoom video calls, it just opens you up to help people all over the planet, quite literally. So I would say that there's no reason anymore to hold off on doing it. The tools are really affordable, if not free, to get started. So yeah, that's my answer. Now, do it now.
Thank you. I love that answer. It's great. And so earlier you mentioned if you already have a protocol in place where it's like you are finding yourself like the GAPS situation, for example, or maybe somebody they're doing the blood sugar control diet or whatever they're doing. They're doing something, they've seen clients a lot and they keep getting the same questions all along the program.
Replicable results.
Replicable results.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, I have this program. I know that it achieves results when I work with people one-on-one. Let me automate it. And so this is where they would then they would write out that data that they would normally be talking to, one-on-one clients with, and then they record it and they put that in a course. So if people don't have that yet, if they don't have something really solid, they're like, oh yeah, that's my program. That's what I want to do. I'd love to hear your thoughts on ways that practitioners can approach ideas for creating online courses and like how to navigate that beginning chapter.
In terms of sort of deciding
the topic, how they exactly.
It's going to be a similar answer to my last question in that just pay attention to what excites you.
Yeah.
And I sadly speak from experience on this front. Often you'll end up doing something because you're good at it or because there's a need for it in your area. And then it sort of snowballs. And I would say, it's up to you what you do, of course. But personally speaking, I'd found that nothing really got enough traction until I started following what was actually exciting to me. I got little bits of traction here and there, and not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I'm thoroughly convinced it's all to do with the energy that you're giving out when you're doing what you're doing. Because also you're going to bear in mind, be kind to your future self. You're going to be talking about this topic for months, years, maybe decades, and you want look at me. I'm like, I love talking about like plugins and tech and stuff, which is really weird. I don't know why, but it's something that if I have to work late trying to figure out a problem, to me it's like a video game. It's like, I'm going to do this. Whereas if I had to work late sort of writing up someone's protocol, that's just personally, that was not what lit me up. I knew it was good work. I knew I was competent at it. And of course there were moments where somebody had some great response where it sort of filled my heart and everything. But in terms of think about, okay, here's the trick. Think about how you're going to feel towards this topic when it's really late. You've got to get something finished. You're tired. Nobody's there to give you a pat on the back or a high five or tell you how great you are. It's just you and the topic. And
that is such great advice. Yeah. Are you still fired up by it? Is that still something that does the topic itself provide enough fuel for you to propel you forward,
to get you through the bad times? It's almost a little bit like a relationship. It's not going to be 100% wonderful, rainbows and unicorns, but know that the person you're with is someone who, even through the bad stuff, you can, not want to kill.
Exactly. And I just love what you said. I just want to call back to something that you mentioned, which was that being kind to your future self. I think that's such a beautiful way to navigate many of your business decisions and life decisions.
Exactly.
And I think that just creating an online course in general is a way to be kind to your future self by helping you provide another stream of income and another way to grow your business, another arm of your business, so to speak.
And I think I found this, and I think a lot of people find, is that because as we're kids or as we're growing up, typically speaking, the things that we enjoy, the things that we do for rewards after the work. And so there's a disconnect as we go into the working world, especially if we're self-employed and we find something that we enjoy. It's like, oh, well, I got to do something that I don't enjoy.
Right.
And this is the reward. And this kept me away from, pivoting. The last little pivot I made to go into doing software version of things, which is the same audience and same people I'm helping, but it's, really on the tech side. That just made it jump off for me into something that I'm like, I do it when I don't have to be working because it's fun. And it took a while for me to sort of train myself that that's okay. Because just because you're having fun doesn't mean you're not working. It doesn't mean you should be guilty. It doesn't mean you have to schedule in 2 hours of accounting or, digging dirt or something just to offset it.
Yeah, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to absolutely love what you're doing.
And the funny thing is, if you start to have fun, you start to draw in all the good stuff and things just start to open up for you.
Yes.
And I can't really explain why, but it's the energy thing, So I think we're programmed to, if there's something you enjoy and that lights you up, that's what you need to be doing. Basically.
I love it. Great advice. And we have another really good question that just came through from Caroline. So she says, okay, so a person has created a course, they've launched it, and it's going well. So what about nurturing the graduate after course completion, engaging alumni and maintaining membership? Such a good question. Thanks, Caroline.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So the way I've done this is I've had a Facebook group that people, when they sign up for the program, we all go and hang out in our community and on a Facebook group. It's a private group. And that's really become sort of the kitchen table hub of my whole business. It's not even a huge amount of people in there, but the conversations and the support and the ideas that sort of, it becomes its own living, breathing organism. It's not about the amount of people. It's not about the amount of sales that you make. It's getting that. And to me, it's like a petri dish sample of my ideal audience. I can just go and observe them and give them little morsels of things and see how they react. That's really, and that's something that they all find. I still have regular messaging sessions with people who joined my course as a beta back in December 2016. I feel like they're my family at this stage, a lot of them. So
yeah.
Awesome. So I would just
Facebook group then would be a good
but it doesn't have to be Facebook as a whole, but just some kind of ongoing community where it's like, okay, we're here to learn something, but it's more about providing an ecosystem for the people, because they're all going through a journey together, and you're a little bit, in theory, you're supposed to be a little bit ahead of them. Sometimes not as far ahead as you might want to be, but you're sort of sherpering them through this jungle, and they're all helping each other. And it's a kind of a beautiful thing. If I log into my group because I see I've been tagged in a question, and I log in maybe an hour later, and I see someone else from the group has already answered, and they've probably had a perspective on it that was different to mine because they're a little bit closer to the level that the poster was at.
Right.
So it becomes its own little organism.
Awesome. And would you suggest doing email nurturing in the form of like ongoing newsletters?
I would. I've not, to be honest, I've not been very good at that because the way my business came about was so freakishly organic that it's still sort of a small number of people. But yeah, emails, I'm on some email lists that are just like, I love receiving. So I would say consistency doesn't really matter on the medium or the platform. One tip I would like to get out before I forget is that if you don't feel that you have to do all the things,
Yes.
like if email is your thing, go all in on the email, and it's about when, they'll be like, when am I going to hear from Sally? How do we communicate? Like I WhatsApp with my mum's in the UK. We have a WhatsApp chat that we usually prefer to do that because the time zone's too crazy for phone calls usually. With other people that I know, I'm an emailer with this person.
Yeah.
So find what works for you and your group, and don't feel that you have to. If you're into Instagram, you don't have to also be on Facebook and Twitter and God knows what else. Just once again, be kind to yourself. We're usually very caring people, but we're not very good. Like, be your own client. I tell myself that a lot. If I can't make a decision about what's best for me, I'll be like, well, what would you tell yourself? And then I'm like, oh, well, do this, do that.
That's great. Oh yeah. Bringing us an online course creation.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So as I said, I had an online course, or I have an online course that started as the organic, let me just help you and show you what I did. And I turned that into a proper course, like a pre-recorded video course, but everybody would get into a few modules in. There would be a section where I told them how to set up all of the different tech that's required to have an online course. Like there's the learning management system, the payment settings, the email funnels, all this other stuff going on. And everybody, as smart as they were and as committed as they were, there would be that part of the course that, even though they said it was really laid out well and it's just click and follow, they'd be like, I just don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I finally realized it wasn't that I needed to make the instructions easier. It's just I'm trying to force them to do something that to me was the highlight of making the course for me, because I'm a graphic designer turned web developer. Most practitioners are not. So for me, what was the highlight? Yeah, the guys were going to build our websites, and they were all like, oh. So I decided I would just come up with I went in my little Petri dish Facebook group and said, I've had an idea. How about I hook all the tools up for you and put it on some hosting inside a website? It's basically a clone of my own course site that they'd all used and loved. And I'll just rent, you can just subscribe and sort of rent, kind of like renting a furnished apartment for your course.
That's awesome.
So that's
great.
So it started as a thing I did for like the 36 people in my first version of my base course. And then I started offering it as a bonus for my course. And I tell you, the moment I knew that this was the thing was I was doing a launch last year, and 90% of the emails that I got during my email sequence selling my course were questions about this one bonus, which was the practitioner platform. I was giving people 2 months free, so that to remove the you've got a course idea, you're ready. Oh, I got to build all this tech.
Right.
It's just like this big bursts people's balloons like nothing else. So all of the questions pretty much were about the platform, and it came time last year to sort of go back in and sort of update it a little bit. And I realized, I was like, this is pretty cool. I've sort of forgotten what I'd built, and decided I'd just update. And tech moved so fast. There was now it was like I could make it way more awesome with more modern tools. So that's what I did last fall, and sort of pivoted to it. And I actually got an investor without really looking. And I've just hired somebody. So this is what I do now.
Awesome. And
so it's working with the same people that I was helping with my course, except I'm not showing them how to build it now. I'm just doing it. I'm saying, here you go. I built it for you.
Yeah,
I built it for you. Here's some videos on how to change the fonts and the logos and put your mark on it, Yeah.
And I can attest, I just want to hop in there and say I can attest to the beauty of your platform and the simplicity of it as a web designer and kind of techie person myself, who's worked with quite a few practitioners who are not, I'm very familiar with what it takes to create the tech resources that go into creating a really smooth online course and a really smooth user interface. And the way that you've done it is just gorgeous.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Yeah, it's seamless. It's beautiful. It's really well laid out. And I just thank you for creating this. And we actually had somebody else in the comments, Jennifer Brown Maniero, had mentioned, thank you for creating this.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was literally my pleasure. I stayed up many late nights. My husband's like, you coming to bed? I was like, almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I think the thing about the design for me is like, even if you're not, most people aren't like a bit of a font Nazi like I am. I'm like, really love colors and fonts, and then sort of have to make sure everything's exactly the way I want it to look. And a lot of people don't have that level of OCD about it. Right. But the thing is, on a subconscious level, it does affect how they feel. If you go to somebody's website and they're charging you, $800 for a 3-week course, or they're charging you $57, it's more about does the $800 look expensive? Not if it looks like, mariefolio.com or just to name a nice looking site.
Exactly.
And it shows people that you've put the time and the effort into making this a nice place for them to be. They're going to be spending quite a bit of time, assuming they actually complete your course. They're going to be spending a lot of time in your virtual classroom. So I say, feng shui it, make it nice. Make it a nice place to be. Be careful about the colors. The inside of my platform has shades of jade, and it's, I didn't want it to be like all migraine inducing.
Right. It's beautiful. It's beautifully designed. And thank you so much. If people haven't seen it, can you tell them where to go, how they can learn more about it, how they can see it for themselves? Yeah,
if you go to thepractitionerplatform.com, and you can start, there's a big orange button there that you can actually sign up for a 14-day free trial. No credit card required, because I don't like it when you have to give a card and then remember to try and cancel. So there's a 2-week free trial, and then you'll get sent credentials, and you'll get sent through our little helpful login sequence that, onboarding sequence rather, that shows you around.
Great. So thepractitionerplatform.com.
Yeah.
I just put some text in there on the screen, so people should be able to see that link. Great.
And I'm behind it. I'm there every day. So sort of the unspoken benefit of it is that it's still the person who created that course. So I think I'm going to be weaving in a lot of not just the tech, but also a lot of the, marketing side and everything as well.
Great. And I'm curious so with this platform, so you have basically, it's a done for you course creation platform, essentially. Do you still provide any support regarding like the creation process in terms of that thinking of those things, or we're talking about those beta testing things? Can you tell us about those resources? Yeah,
I do. So I've actually just pivoted over to offering my previous program, which is called From Idea to Income. I'm actually pivoting over to building that into the dashboard of the actual platform.
Oh, great!
So it's a bit of a spaghetti brain moment to try and articulate it, but it's a little bit like a choose your own adventure book, where you're like, okay, I think I want to create, a webinar, or I want to do XYZ, and here's sort of basically like a tech recipe. And we've built it so that if you don't know, we built it so that you don't have to know how to use it before you can use it. So you log in and you can click and you can follow a little orange prompt that tells you where to click. And if you forget next time and come back, you can just ask it again. It doesn't judge, it's a robot. It's not going to give you any shame for I just told you how to do this.
That's great.
Which is really important for people who aren't particularly confident around tech, is, feeling like they don't want to be a trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled for what you've created. I'm so excited for our community to have this resource available. I know that it's such a roadblock for so many, that technical aspect of, and like you said, I loved when you alluded to, like, with all of these different pieces of technology, you feel like you kind of came onto the scene of a crime where it's like, who's doing what here? And it's like,
yeah,
it can be so confusing to navigate that.
I was wrestling with that a couple of nights ago. I installed something new to sync up my email with something else. And it's like, okay, well, this has a live chat widget, but so does this other, like, and then you have to sort of put them, all right, ding, ding, they have to decide who's going to win the rights to take that job. Yeah. It's really insane. And it's a full-time job. This is why I hired somebody, because this is actually a full-time job, just keeping the platform healthy and keeping an eye out because tech is moving so fast.
Always.
And I'm really, I want to stress this because I'm a fellow practitioner. I'm really open to feedback. I built this for you guys, for NTPs and NTCs. And I do let a few other riffraff in, like coaches, coaches and other people, but it's like 90% of the people on it are NTPs and NTCs. And I'm really open to, like, I know people would like me to add a calendar scheduler. So we're going to be adding that. It's an ongoing, this is all I do now. So it's sort of almost like having your own IT department, who will just build you stuff.
It's so beyond valuable.
If I get a request and it's something that other people also want, then it's my Zen place is figuring out how to make stuff happen.
Beautiful.
So
Well, thank you so much, Sally. Thanks for being on here with us today.
Thank you.
Sharing tips about creating online courses and sharing the information about your practitioner platform that you've created. And again, thank you so much for creating this resource for our community. It is absolutely so needed, and you've done such a beautiful job with it. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Okay. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.